Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quinville 2-on-1. Right when Carlson comes, Quinville scores!
Here's a chance for Barrett. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up in Zeminger. Pulled back to Wierenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Wierenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other. They both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now, with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Quebec City.
Bienvenue à Quebec. Welcome to the Calder Farmstead podcast, episode number 19 for Friday, March 12th, 2021. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring urban agricultural practices, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast, and my name is Cece Hockley.
And I'm Sean O'Brien.
And as always, we thank you all for tuning in with us.
If you're new to hearing Cece and I talk about hockey, we're going to preview some of the matchups for the upcoming weekend for you in the AHL. We both watch a lot of games, and we're going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you may want to head over to our podcast feed or our YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. You got to scroll all the way to the bottom, but it's down there. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're new to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like PDO or our point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out so you better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it's not that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes, and let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes today Googling who Patrick Ewing is.
Ooh.
So why not spend a little more time talking hockey with us?
Oh, goodness. And you should know who the hell he is, at least according to his, video today of him getting, credentialed a bunch at Madison Square Garden. But anyway, different sport. I digress. Let's talk AHL hockey. First and foremost, let's preview the weekend for the Chicago Wolves against the Iowa Wild. Now, Chicago shatting the bed against Cleveland last weekend, dropping 2 games in a row for their first 2 losses at home. And it's not a big surprise because Chicago's estimated PDO from February 5th to the 23rd was 109. They were really due for a drop-off, and their estimated PDO from February 23rd to March 9th is 101. So makes
Nature
sense.
is healing.
What nature is healing. Yes, there you go. Their power play percentage from February 11th to the 21st was 5 for 19, a 26.3% clip. Their power play percentage from February 21st to March 9th, 2 for 16, 12.5%. So as Sean said, nature is healing. And Chicago early on in the season generated a lot of its offense off of the rush. So do you think that's kind of the reason why they've also dropped off as well, Sean?
It seems to be. Teams appear to be adapting their transition game. I saw forwards playing a lot higher in the offensive zone, and they're much more conscious of not getting caught below the dots in transition. Cleveland appeared to have a much more passive forecheck throughout the game, and this ensured that they wouldn't get caught giving up odd man rushes. There were a number of times in which I saw their F3 forward, if he even saw that Chicago was going to make a recovery in their end and we're about to start transition, just sprint back to the neutral zone. And they did this against other teams, Cleveland did, but it was most noticeable as a very concentrated effort against Chicago. And like you pointed out, they've scored a lot of their goals and generated a lot of their chances off of rush chances, which is not that surprising. They're a very fast team with a lot of very skilled guys who have good vision, good puck skills, that kind of thing. But they've really not managed to generate those chances, especially against Cleveland, who dropped that third forward back and made sure that they were not going to get outnumbered in transition.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
This is a a good tactic to take against the Wolves because, like we said, they have a talented and fast team, and forcing them to take a dump and chase approach is not going to be that successful for them because that's not how they're built to play. And teams are having more success cutting down their rush chances, forcing them to kind of adapt to a style they're not really built for. And that seemed to be the success that Cleveland had over the weekend with them. And to some extent that Grand Rapids did as well, is limiting those rush chances, making sure that you are forcing guys who are better at entering the zone with possession than trying to, win dump in retrievals and press hard on the forecheck for having to play that style of game.
So for the Iowa Wild to be poised to take the Wolves down this weekend, I think they'll need good special teams, some quality goaltending, and a good rush defense. I think those three things are going to be key for the Wild to be successful. So first and foremost, the Wild are 20th in power play percentage and 18th in PK. That's, out of 28 teams, that's getting towards the bottom there. So they went 2 for 7 on the power play and 7 for 8 on the penalty kill against Rockford. So I guess that's something. Rockford has the second worst PK and the 19th best quote unquote power play percentage. So maybe not a great special teams victory there. The Wild's penalty differential is also not on the plus side, drawing 4 power plays per game, which is 7th most in the league, and giving up 4.4 penalty kills per game, which is 6th most in the league. So special teams get on the ice at a higher rate for Iowa than most of the league, and their special teams are not great, Bob. 0 for 1 in the keys to beating the Wolves department. So 2. Last weekend against Rockford, the Wild started Hunter Jones with Joel Rumpel backing up. Jones posted a .841 save percentage over the weekend against the Ice Hogs, who last time I checked aren't, they're last in the Central Division. They're not doing too well. So it begs the question, why is Derek Baribeau MIA? He was sent back to Iowa on February 21st and started a game on February 28th. He's been their best goalie over the course of the season so far, and despite that success, he's getting treated like he's the weekend during Grammy nominations. Ugh. If Hunter Jones is the guy here, that's 0 for 2 on keys to the weekend. Now, how does the rush defense look, Sean? Let's talk about the third point there.
Yeah, it's definitely not the worst, but it's not great. Since they last played the Wolves, I count 4 rush goals against in those 4 games. It's not terrible, but not great. One game against Texas, they gave up a bunch of rush chances, but they got bailed out on those chances. And the other 3 games looked okay-ish to me. A couple of moments in which I thought their D, didn't step up at the blue line very well, didn't have great gap control, but overall, not a terrible effort, but not a spectacular one. Still, I would not count on this as a strength for them. So half credit, 0.5 out of 3.
That's not a passable grade.
No, not even at Hogwarts.
Oh yeah, no, not even. Yeah, you're not getting 10 points for Idaho Wild Indoor or whatever you want to call that house there. Oh, well, anyway, let's get to the picks. So Saturday, 6 p.m. Central Time in Iowa, Sunday, 3 p.m. Central Time, also in Iowa. So 2 games set there over the weekend in Des Moines. Sean, who do you got?
Well, 0.5 out of 3 is not getting it done. I'm taking the Wolves to sweep, kind of a get right weekend for them after they, as you put it, shat the bed.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing against Cleveland and they're 4th out of 6th, they've technically got a positive point percentage, or at least an above 500 point percentage, as it were. But yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think Chicago, it's a get it right weekend. That's a good way to put it. And I pick a sweep as well. Imagine that.
So now that we have a decent sample size enough for the model to kind of project games at least a little bit, the model is going to say Chicago is a 58.74% favorite for each game for the weekend. So the model likes Chicago as well here. but not nearly as big as you would think.
Mm-mm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe, maybe the 2-game loss against Cleveland kind of skewed the model a little bit.
There is that. All right.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a break or do you want to keep on trucking here?
Let's keep on trucking. Let's go to Bakersfield and San Jose. And of course, the Bakersfield Condors on this program are referred to as
the Kingslayer.
The Jamie Lannister of the AHL, Kingslayer. So, Sean, tell us about the Kingslayer.
Well, for one, if the Barracuda want to have a prayer in this weekend, they need to start hot. In their last 6 games, the Condors have won the shot battle in the first period. In 6 straight games, they've scored the game's first goal. In 5 of those 6, they've scored the game's first 2 goals. Bakersfield is throwing a lot of rubber on net too. And that was one of the things we pointed out earlier on in the season when they weren't doing so well, is they are putting shots on net. They are generating chances. They are, from what it looks like, controlling the flow of play, but those pucks aren't going in. Well, they have been now, and Bakersfield is still very much a volume shooting team. They're getting those quality chances, but they're also padding totals with long range, low percentage shots. I'm not a huge fan of this tactic, as it doesn't produce consistent offense and very much goes through dry spells when, you shoot through traffic, it hits somebody, it goes wide. You shoot through traffic, it gets tipped, but it takes a shot that was going in and turns it into a shot that goes wide or into a goalie or anything like that. It doesn't generate rebounds nearly as much as people think it does. Mm-hmm. Research has actually shown that the shots that produce rebounds the most are the ones that are in front of the net. So all the more reason to shoot from high danger areas more is you're also going to produce more rebounds.
Gotcha. Yeah. And, the Barracuda, both Bakersfield and the Barracuda are kind of starting to find their stride a little bit more, while, Pacific Division teams like Tucson and Colorado are trending down. Bakersfield and San Jose are trending up. I mean, looking at the standings, I was kind of surprised that San Jose is actually second in the Pacific Division standings now. They've leapfrogged San Diego because San Diego is also trending down. So I think that, getting guys back like Noah Gregor and Alexander, it's damn true. Coming back to the CUDA should also help the depth chart. It's been getting thin the last week or so. Joachim Blackfield got called up, and those guys also, coming back, I think is going to help that out as well. So talking about San Jose starting hot, but are you sold that maybe, Stuart Skinner can come in and, pull up his jockstrap and kind of salvage some games here this weekend?
Well, I don't think he's a sumo wrestler, but yeah, I'm not a believer in Stuart Skinner. And I said this, I think earlier this year too, where he got his first NHL start with Edmonton. I'm like, he's just failing upward at a rate that he's going to own the Oilers in 5 years. I think the team is playing well in front of him, but I just don't believe that Skinner is suddenly a quality starter in the AHL, given his body of work, as well as what I've seen on film from him in previous seasons and in last season. He's still giving up bad rebounds, but the defense in front of him has helped take care of those and make sure that, the sticks of the other team aren't finding those rebounds quite as easily. He's also had some questionable puck tracking at times that has really gotten bailed out by, just bad shooting coming his way when he's been late or been off. And the Condors have also been controlling the flow of play in front of him and minimizing, any kind of real damage that he's been able to kind of inflict on their chances of winning. But I think Stuart Skinner is not a viable long-term solution for them. It's kind of like running your car on moonshine. Like, yeah, it's working right now, but like, this isn't going to hold for as long as you think, and you should probably be looking for other options.
Yeah. It's I guess instead of being Mr. Right, he's Mr. Right now. So
yes, that is very much how I would put Stuart Skinner. Is like, I don't think that he's going to be the future goaltender of this franchise or definitely the Oilers, but in a pinch right now, he's voodooing his way to an effective job, and There is no reason to stop that yet, but I think eventually there will be, and they need to be trying to find a way to, be prepared for when those days do come.
Yeah. Well, with all that in mind, we are getting to the picks. So unfortunately, Kevin Lacey of Teal Town, USA couldn't join us this evening to preview the weekend with Baco and San Jose. So again, it's just going to be Sean and I making the picks. So Sean, once again, who do you got?
I'm still taking the Kingslayer. They're hot right now. And while I think the team in front of Skinner is good. I don't know if they're this good, but like I said, when you're hot, I'm going to ride that hotness to another sweep. I'm taking them in both.
Okay. Well, I am going to go with my old standby. And like I said, both of these teams are trending in the right direction. And I think that Baco takes Friday, but San Jose recovers and takes Saturday. So I'm going to do the CC thing and take the split.
All right. The model has Bakersfield as a 68.95% favorite in each individual game. It's not very high on these Sharks' rotating cast of characters, so that probably has a lot to do with it. I think if Joachim Blickfield were in for this game, we might see some different movement as well as, depending on, because the Sharks have literally played so many guys in, a game or two trying to find which guy is going to be in. The model is not really programmed to do that because I haven't made it programmed to do that. So yeah, it's not as high on the Sharks as maybe it should be, but I still feel confident saying the model would like Bakersfield here regardless.
Sure. If not just by a few percentage points off, again, yeah, you've got that margin of error in there. So
it's only a model.
It's only a model. All right. So we've covered a couple series. Now we can take an ad break. So hang tight, listen to these advertisements so that Sean and I can, keep the doors open and get some money. And so Sean can, take the American dollars and, transfer them over to some Canadian bucks as he is in Quebec City. So long story short, we'll be right back. All right. And we are back from break. And we've covered two series so far, one in the Central Division, one in the Pacific Division. And now we are going back to, I say back to the Central, but only for one team. These are all North Division teams normally. So the Rochester Americans are going to be playing the Cleveland Monsters and the Utica Comets this weekend. So Friday night, the Great Lakes Showdown between Rochester and Cleveland. So special teams are likely to be a factor here. Cleveland's power play is second in the league. Kind of a surprise there. Rochester's is third. Both are clicking at insane rates north of 30%. And of course, who is first? Oh, that's right. Stockton at like 40% plus. So ridiculous.
That's a made-up number.
That's a made-up number. Welcome to 2021, where the points don't matter and the power play percentages are made up. So anyway, back to Cleveland and Rochester. No team has finished the season with a power play above 26% in the last 10 years. So you want to talk about sustainability or the lack thereof? There you go. It's not a sustainable pace, not a sustainable clip rather. So,
and maybe somewhere in the future, as I've talked about, I think there are strategies out there that could make that a sustainable thing. We talked about it a little bit last week when we broke down one of the Manitoba Moose's goals, where they had two guys making passes behind the net. But yeah, north of 30%. No, you're going to come back to reality here in a little bit.
Yeah, and penalty kill. Doing a little multitasking here. Don't mind me. Cleveland's penalty kill is 14th and Rochester's is 20th. So not as robust on the PK side of things for both teams as they are on the power play side of teams. So penalty differential is slightly in Cleveland's favor as they are dead even in the penalty differential. Rochester is taking more penalties than it's drawing. So yeah, there's that. But this is kind of surprising. This is Rochester's first back-to-back all season.
Yeah, it is. And they don't have too many. I believe off the top of my head, they only have 4 total.
Okay. Well, I'll look into that. Yeah.
The Atlantic Division doesn't have any. And it's funny to hear
Dang.
that some teams are like losing their minds because they have 3 and 4s and back-to-backs and 3 and 3s and stuff like that. And then it's like, oh yeah, Providence, Bridgeport, and Hartford don't have any. A lot of North Division teams have only a few sprinkled in here and there, and then the rest of the league is like, please stop giving us back-to-backs.
Oh God.
I mean, I don't blame them. I think I would be extra pissed if I were a player playing a third game in a third day, and like knowing that I have buddies on Providence. So it's like, yeah, we played like once on Tuesday and once on Saturday, and that's it. Like, I don't know if my fingers on my hand are long enough to do the motion that would be in my heart at that point. But being that this is Rochester's first back-to-back all season, are we going to see Michael Hauser in game action? I mean, he has been very quietly just hanging out in Rochester the whole year. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, a.k.a. Rifle, if he gets both starts, he will be playing his third start in 4 days, which is pretty brutal. He started all but 2 of their games this season. Tokarski started the other 2. So it's hard to really kind of know, especially as this is their first back-to-back, what the plan is here from Seth Appert. The Americs do have 4 days from Saturday until their next game. So I suppose it's possible that Rifle starts all 4 or starts both games for that 3 and 4 because he'll have 4 days off. But I still think that's probably too many. Like, I would play him Friday and let Hauser, get a start in on Saturday, but I am not the coach. So on the other side of things, Cleveland looks to have a full roster back for this game, so they won't have to dress 8 defensemen, which is good. As rumor had it, the Monsters were inquiring if Kevin Love or Andre Drummond could maybe play some fourth line wing.
Strap some skates on those Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, like it's totally viable. Like, maybe someone from Toledo or Kent State, sneak in maybe. But they do have V and Kivlenix back, or at least that's what it looks like right now. Who knows what, Jarmo Kekalainen has planned tomorrow or 5 minutes from now or 5 minutes after that in terms of roster moves. But for right now, as far as I can tell, they are both in Cleveland. And that's bad news for the Americans, as they obviously would have preferred to get a decent start from the Monsters, as he was a healthy portion of why they won the first meeting, because he hasn't been a good goaltender in the AHL for like 2 seasons. But he's like, I think he's actually older than I am, so that seems fair. But the Monsters also haven't played in 5 days, so they should be fresh for this game. Whereas, I mean, Rochester played Wednesday, I believe it was, but this is the first of their back-to-back, so they should still be fine. But what's going on in Cleveland besides that they don't have to play any Cavaliers?
Well, Adam Holoka seems to be finding his game. He's on a line with Trey Fix-Wolansky, finally being taken off of a line with Brett Gallant and Zach Jordan. So Holoka and Fix-Wolansky looked good over the weekend sweep of the Wolves. They created offense off the counterattack and transition. Holoka still is not getting any power play time as far as I can tell. He's getting the Brian Pino treatment there in Cleveland. But that's still not quite where I expect him to be given his talent level. He's kind of still mishandling pucks. He's making mistakes in reading the play. He is improving and finding his rhythm. It's important, as we thought he'd be a big carrier of this offense coming into the season and during our preseason, previews of these teams. Not sure he will be anymore. He can still be an important piece, but I don't think he's going to be one of the, one of the keystones, as it were, like we thought he was going to be coming into this season.
Yeah, I remember we talked him up. We pumped his tires good. It's like if, Holuka's not scoring for them, we thought they might be in trouble. And it turns out Holuka hasn't been scoring with them until recently, until he got out of, basically having 2 boat anchors tied to him. And now, but they've been treading water, at least say, which I think is at least somewhat of a credit to them. They also have had, to start Brad Teese in a couple of games. That's not ideal. They've had to dress 8 defensemen. Also
not ideal.
Yeah, also not great. But I will give the Monsters credit of things that like a lot has gone wrong for them. And I mean, let's be honest, a lot has gone wrong for just about every team this year in terms of ideal scenarios, except for maybe Henderson.
Right.
But like they've managed to look better than they did last season, despite what I feel like is more going wrong. And that's, I mean, that's a credit to them. And we'll see, you know, as things start trending upwards for, you know, the health of their roster, the chemistry between them, Haluka seeming to find a little bit of his game, still shaking off some rust, like you said. Could they be, you know, that team that kind of emerges from what we assume is going to be a pretty clear first place Chicago Wolves? Will they be like that second place team? Because kind of like the Canadian division, it's like we all kind of know who's going to be the top, and then the rest of it is just fighting amongst the rest of the teams, and it's kind of a mixed bag of who's who. Like I know in the preseason we said we didn't think too much of Iowa, but maybe they're a little bit better than we thought, or maybe not. But there's a lot of like mixed bag there, whereas Cleveland looks like they could be that one that emerges, but maybe not. So
yeah, and they're kind of middle of the road right now, so they could. I mean, there's a lot of hockey left to be played. You know, at least 3/4 of the season left, or wherever we're at right now. So let's talk about Rochester and Utica. So what does Rochester need to do to be successful against the Comets?
well, first, I mean, they need to play cleaner out of their own zone.
Gotcha.
Utica's forecheck has done a great job of creating chaos for them. They've been keeping the Americans from generating zone exits, as we've talked about kind of here and there throughout our episode 0 about the importance of creating zone exits to create zone entries to create offense. Like it all starts there. And the Comets forecheck has really done a good job over the course of kind of them playing a bunch of games so far of pressing that advantage for them. But the Americans have been kind of sloppy trying to come out of their own ends. A lot of bad turnovers, a lot of just fumbled pucks or bad execution that's turned into dump and chase, which then, you know, is a crapshoot from the way that their team is built. Rochester has done a good job of keeping tabs on Sven Bartucci. He has been a very big non-factor against the Americans this season, which is surprising. I mean, he's a talented player and was one person that we highlighted earlier in the year of like, that's going to be a guy that does the offense for them. Especially now as, you know, Sam Anas is occupying a press box in St. Louis. He still hasn't gotten into games yet because
poor guy.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
But I mean, I thought Bartucci would really step up. You know, it was going to be kind of his show, and he just, especially against Rochester, he has not been that guy. They've done a very good job of keeping tabs on him, and part of me wonders if they've been paying too much attention to him and not to Jonah Gadovich. They need to maybe have someone whose job it is to just follow him around the ice. He has 8 goals this season, and 6 of them are against Rochester.
Ooh,
yeah. That's bad for Rochester. Like that guy has really, really hated Rochester, and it shows his point totals. It's really surprising to see something like that, and it's more surprising not just that he's managed to dominate that one team. I mean, they only really play 2 teams, so
right.
Like, it just seems like he keeps finding different ways in which to score them. It's not like he's, you know, just Ovechkin, I stand in one spot, I swing stick. He's been finding multiple avenues to beat Rochester, and that's not been great for them.
Yeah, it's to the point where he wakes up and sees Rochester on the schedule and chooses violence. So, I mean, that's ultimately when you score 6 of your 8 goals against one team, you know, there's no other explanation for it. So Friday night, 6:05 p.m. Eastern in Rochester. Saturday, 7:05 p.m. Eastern, also in Rochester. Cleveland and Utica back-to-back games here. From what I saw, it's one of 3 back-to-backs, but the schedule is a little wonky on the AHL.com because they have to reschedule games and things like that. So, I mean, the Cleveland game doesn't even pop up when you click on Rochester's schedule. It's kind of weird, but yeah, It does on the daily report, but it doesn't actually on the website itself. So that's how screwy this year is that the AHL.com can't even keep up in regards to that. So
Like, I'm wondering now if we missed some breaking news here. Like, let me.
I don't think so, because on the daily report, it still says Cleveland at let's see here. Hold on. Rochester
Nope.
Saturday. Huh?
Friday's game between the Americans
Yeah.
and the Monsters has been rescheduled for April 10th. As
Oh. So so it was on the daily report this morning.
yeah, and it was on the schedule earlier this afternoon when I put it on our outline. And
Oh.
within the last like hour, that got yep. So we got scooped during recording. Beautiful. I've always I waited for this moment to happen. All right, so well, that game's completely out. Forget all that we said there. Let's pick Utica and move on.
So much for actually being a weekend series as just opposed to a weekend game. So I'm gonna pick Utica in this one. And who do you got? Rochester, Utica on Saturday at 7:05 Eastern.
I got Utica. I'm taking Utica. I am not going to like, they've been trading games back and forth here, but I think in all of them I felt like Utica has been the better team.
Right.
I'm gonna stick with Utica here. The model likes Utica, but a lot closer than I would have thought. Utica is a 52.99% favorite in Saturday's game.
Well, there you go. Yeah, just barely the favorite on that one, but I think both of us picking the Comets. Yeah. I'm still trying to get over the fact that we got scooped right before the podcast, or right before we started recording. So
yep,
it was bound to happen. Like, with all this rescheduling and nonsense going on. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, Lehigh Valley and Bridgeport, the game got stopped after one period, for crying out loud. Like, even those guys, I mean, I know you tweeted out and it's like, okay, well, maybe you could have waited and postponed the game until all the tests came back.
Yeah, like, the difference between the start of the game and the first intermission is what? An hour and a half tops? Like, I know you want to get out of Newark, but like
yeah, I mean, it's just and see, I'm trying to, Elaine Shercliffe, of course, our AHL Central Division correspondent this season for Full Press Hockey. We'd bring her on and have her talk about some of the Central Division teams and things like that. But it's like, she's covering a game on a Thursday when we're recording. Paige Stewart's covering the Stockton game against Manitoba. So it's like, we tried to pick days to record where, okay, games aren't going to fall on these days. Well, they are. It's like, there's so many things out of our hands that we can't predict. So,
yep.
Anyway, let's get another series in here before we take another break. Let's go to the Pacific Division. Let's talk the Ontario Reign versus Tucson and Henderson. So let's make sure, and let me pull this up real quick and make sure that these games aren't rescheduled. All right, Ontario, are you playing Tucson? Yes. Friday, March 12th. Are you playing Henderson? Yes. March 13th, Saturday. We're good. All right, let's forge ahead and keep going. So, Sean, Ontario looks like a team that has poor chemistry. I mean, even now, I made that comment earlier when we were covering, like, when I covered Ontario versus the Eagles. Inconsistency is the name of the game for the Ontario Reign.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. They're a team that has poor chemistry. They have guys that are making passes to areas where they expect teammates to be, and they're just not there. And I mean, these aren't, like, some of these are guys still learning the Reign system that are new to it. But a good portion of it, like, these aren't, I didn't understand the offensive system or the forechecking system or anything like that. And I'm, putting a puck to a place where nobody was ever going to be. Like, hockey isn't that structured in the offensive zone or off the rush. It's very much a flow of the game, chemistry with teammates thing. And that's where they're missing, it seems like, a good portion of the time, where they're, trying to make passes to areas where they think their teammates are supposed to be. And like they're, shoulder checking before they go into the boards, like looking over their shoulder to see like, where is my teammate? And then they kind of have to track in their head, like, all right, he's here and I think he's going to end up here. And they put that pass to where they think he's going. Then he's not there. They're not on the same page.
Mm-mm.
And that's been apparent in small places and big places throughout the kind of throughout their season so far. And some of it, there are also instances where like there are guys that just aren't familiar with, their breakout plays yet or stuff like that. And that's been a little more concerning, as you would have thought, at least by this point, like they would be, especially like they had a bunch of exhibition games too. They've been, in practice and for a while. So that's more concerning to me if I'm John Wroblewski. But given that like how young this team is, and a lot of them, this is their first crack at professional hockey, or, still given that last season wasn't finished, this is still like basically half their rookie season. I'm willing to, let some things slide here, but it is starting to become more of a concern. There's also a lot of instances of guys who want to try and do too much by themselves, especially in transition, where like they'll get the puck and try and go coast to coast, from basically picking up the puck below the dots and just try and walk it all the way down. And they, skate into a bad spot. They end up turning it over, or they dump it in when their line mates aren't in good position for the retrieval. And while the Black and Silver Bandits are definitely not 100% of these instances, there are a few of them. And it's very much a junior hockey mentality. Like you see a lot of those kind of end-to-end rushes where one guy just takes it, skates around two guys, walks in, makes a play and scores. That's very much a junior hockey thing, and something that I'm sure Wroblewski has had to try and coach out of them. And that's not, unique to them or unique to him. Like you see that with a lot of players and a lot of coaches, where they have to kind of coach the junior out of them. If you can't just dunk on guys anymore, you actually have to play within the system and, use your teammates and that kind of thing. You can't just charge in one-on-one 3 times and expect it to go well. There's also a fair amount of bad luck that's plaguing this team.
Yes. Yeah, they're estimated. Go ahead.
Yeah. Isamont, Kaliev, Byfield, and Madden have combined for 129 shots on goal. They have 4 combined goals on 129 shots.
Wow.
And now, while Quentin Byfield, Madden, and Isamont aren't necessarily snipers, they all have good shots. Kaliev has a great shot. He is shooting 2.7% on the season right now. And we talk a lot about, power play percentages being too high, PDO being too high, and that not being sustainable. Kaliev shooting 2.7% is not sustainable. That will go up. He is too good of a shooter to hold on to that percentage for conceivably any longer. Like I remember when I looked that up of like, what's Kaliev shooting, and expecting it to at least be in, the high single digits, but see 2.7, Jesus, there is nothing I could ever point to and be like, that number is wrong. That does not display reality as it should be.
Well, and I was going to bring it up as you started the category, but their estimated PDO is, it's 94.5. I mean, their estimated 5-on-5 shooting percentage is 6%. It's like you said, it's not sustainable in a different way than we have been talking about, in the sense that they're having some bad luck, and they're due for a turnaround for sure. So we'll see if they get that this weekend, against Tucson and Henderson. And, speaking of Tucson, as we detailed in the recap against the Stars, Tucson got off to slow starts and tried to play catch up late. And of course, when you do that, oftentimes that's not going to be good enough. Goaltenders for Texas, Colton Point and Thomas Scholl, stood tall. Tucson has been very meh since opening weekend against San Jose. They haven't played bad, and I don't think they're really strung together. I don't think they've really strung together a series of games, or even in some cases, a series of consecutive periods that lives up to the talent level of their team, which I think is quite good on paper. Perhaps this game against Ontario is a bit of a get right game for them. We talked about that with Chicago earlier on. Perhaps Ontario uses it as a chance to get into the win column against a team who looks to be kind of sleepwalking since Valentine's Day weekend. Either way, these look like two teams that haven't executed their respective game plans well in recent games. So obviously, so there's Tucson, obviously the Silver Knights, Henderson. I mean, quite the other side of the coin of those two teams.
Yeah, they've not only been good and are good, but they've also gotten insane puck luck to go with it.
Yes.
The Knights have some roster moves going on, which, I mean, we've stopped trying to figure out and read those tea leaves of how that's going to play out over the weekend. But Robin Lehner is there right now. I have no idea if he's going to play or is just there to practice for conditioning and salary cap saving purposes. But I'd be willing to bet that having him in the room helps. I mean, it's not like Henderson needs it right now or somehow, maybe needs a pickup in the locker room, but like having a guy like Robin Lehner who's gone through a lot in his professional hockey career, in the room there and in practice, gotta be useful. You have a finger up, like you have a point here, CC.
I don't have a point. I have an addition to make. You mentioned roster moves within the hour. I just got an email. That's why I'm paying attention to my phone. Not breaking news, but within the past 40 minutes, maybe not an hour. But Caden Korzak rather, he has been reassigned to Kelowna in the WHL. So he's only had 2 assists in 9 games. So not a big contributor, more of a third or fourth line guy, but defenseman, sorry. So not fourth and third or fourth line guy. He's bottom pairing guy, third pairing guy. So yeah, that just broke. So you got another guy, and it's not going to, that's the thing, is that even though they have these roster moves, I don't think that's going to affect him very much.
Korzak, probably not. They did just send up, oh God, I just lost his name. I can't think of it. One of their good forwards.
Oh, I'll have to look at the transactions list. Hang on.
Yeah. But I know they just sent up a couple of guys to Vegas. And like I said, who knows if they're just there for a practice day or, to get some work in or to do some daily salary cap shenanigans.
Patrick Brown.
I was going to say Logan Brown, but I knew that wasn't right. There are a lot of Browns in the league. But yeah, no, Patrick Brown, and he's been very good for them this year. But I don't know if he's going to be back in time for the weekend. I've learned not to try and guess, but like,
right.
Assuming that he is, they'll be fine. Without him, I still think they're probably deep enough to be okay here. But overall, this team has really looked great. Manny Vivros has really gotten complete buy-in from these players, and they just roll 4 lines that can score. Like, if this sounds familiar to what Vegas was in their first year, I'm still of the theory there's something in the water down there, because this is just crazily like how when Vegas came into the league. Like, they got buy-in, they just rolled 4 lines that can score. They had great chemistry. Like, they skated hard, they back-checked well, and especially in these circumstances too, like when we talked about Ontario, like that their first-year coach in weird circumstances, a bunch of young guys learning a new system under a new affiliate, and Ontario has struggled with that a little bit in trying to get buy-in and understanding of the system and stuff like that. And Henderson has done the opposite. Everyone is on the same page. I mean, they're so in sync. I assume they all wear the same underwear.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me for sure.
But
well, hey,
go
ahead.
It's been impressive for them. And as much as I want to believe that at some point they're going to, I don't want to say return to earth, but like that they are going to start winning at like a normal, really good team pace and not just like they're winning at a pace where it's like if you dropped the Red Wings into the AHL, this is what it would look like.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I mean,
maybe not on ice, but in terms of like results, this is what I would expect.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, you've got Ontario versus Tucson in El Segundo, California. And then Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, you've got Henderson making the trip over to El Segundo, the temporary home for the Ontario Reign this season. Sean, who do you have for these two matchups?
Part of me thinks that Tucson, after like showing up in the third period, like that is enough for me to say that they are not going to sleepwalk through this game against Ontario. Part of me believes that Ontario at some point has to start making more tangible progress on the ice in terms of results and goals and that kind of thing. So I'm torn. I think I'm going to pick Ontario here because I know eventually they're going to at least start making progress. That team has too much talent on it to just be held down this badly all season. And Tucson has looked bad more recently, I feel like. So I'm going to take Ontario hesitantly.
And the next game?
PDO train all the way. Henderson.
Chugga, 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 chugga. Woot, woot. Yes. So riding that PDO train until you see something different. Yep. That is the Sean O'Brien way for sure. I'm going to say Ontario as well. They're due. I mean, when you're boasting, and I use that term loosely, a 94.5 estimated PDO, you got to turn it around sometime. You got to get a win occasionally. And Tucson, I think, is ripe for an upset, quote unquote, to get upset rather. So Ontario over Tucson. And then I'm also picking Henderson because they're just that damn good and they're getting puck lucky. So there's that.
Also, fun thing that's on the Tableau page now is a rolling 2-week PDO. So you can kind of not just see a cumulative way of the season, but also like as the peaks and valleys and the weirdness of the season goes on. And Ontario is trending up. So they went from a 92.19 the first couple weeks of the season, and the last 2 weeks they are a 97.3. So still bad, but not at least going in the right direction.
Yes.
Yeah. The model obviously hates Ontario. Tucson 71.23%, Henderson 79.49%. Like it really does. It hates Ontario. I didn't program it that way. It does it on its own.
Yeah.
But it very much thinks of Ontario as a big underdog, which they've maybe deserved.
Yep, for sure. Well, hey, we're ready for our final ad break. Yeah. Final ad break of the show. We're going to talk Colorado and Texas. They are going to Cedar Park for a 4-game set. And so, well, it's a kind of a split up set 2-2 over the course of a few days, but we'll talk that series and then we'll get to the speed round and crank out the rest of the league. So stay tuned. After these messages, we'll be right back. Okay, thanks for hanging with us. Thanks for listening to those advertisements. And we've got our final, not our final series per se, but definitely our final deep dive series of this episode. And that is the Colorado Eagles versus the Texas Stars. Now, Colorado's special teams woes continue. I mean, we've talked about it a number of times on this show that, Colorado just not doing hot at all on the power play. They are still in the basement. 3 power play goals on 40 chances. That is bad enough, not good enough, bad enough for a 7.5 conversion rate, 7.5% conversion rate rather. So, they've struggled to really get set up off of zone entries on the power play. And once they did, I thought it looked fine. I thought they looked good. It's just that Henderson did such a good job forechecking and keeping them from getting settled into their somewhat 1-3-1 shape in the offensive zone that really caused the Eagles to waste a lot of precious power play time. I saw that first and foremost there on that Saturday game I covered. The Eagles just Henderson stifled them. And of course, the Eagles power play has been awful against every team, but Henderson, mostly so, or at least the most from what I've seen. So, the Eagles still look to be shorthanded here. You got Patterin, Megna, Timmins, Renouf, O'Connor, Sherwood, and Peyton Jones still up with the Avs on that taxi squad there. That's a good portion of your offense that has helped you win games this season if you're the Colorado Eagles.
Yeah, and to comment on what you said about Henderson, that's a very subtle way to like be more effective at penalty kills. Is not necessarily with shot blocking or better understanding the system, but getting a team to waste time. I remember, I think it was last season, one of the strategies that teams would use against Laval setting up on the power play was to basically force entries to one side where their trigger man wouldn't play. Like they would drive him to, I think he was left-handed, they would drive him to the right side entry. So that way he would have to basically go all the way around the formation to get into his spot. And if nothing else, they wasted time. And you only get 2 minutes on each power play, usually. So like doing little things like that and chipping away, that eats away at that percentage. Because once a team gets set up in kind of its, as you said, 1-3-1 shape, or whatever shape that they use, that formation, it's really hard once a team gets set up and has position to prevent good quality scoring chances. So a lot of the name of the game of good penalty killing is stopping them from getting there. And that's what Henderson did really well against Colorado, as you said. And yeah, being shorthanded like that is...
It's tough. It's tough, especially in a season like this where you've got the taxi squads and everything like that. I know every team deals with it, but that's those are your main guys. And yeah, I'm at a loss for words really on how Colorado is supposed to navigate this. So Sean, talk about Texas for a little bit so I can collect my thoughts.
Well, unlike the Eagles power play, Texas has been red hot recently. They are 5-1 in their last 6 games. Masharon has a 6-game point streak going. Diamani has scored in 7 of his last 8. Cole Schneider has 11 points in his last 7 games. Thomas Scholl, patron saint of the podcast, has put up 3 straight performances of .929 save percentage or better. Their 2-week rolling PDO is 104.
Keep on rolling. Yeah. I'm sorry, I had to invoke a little Limp Bizkit. You said rolling, and so I'm like, flashback to my junior high years and middle school years. Sorry.
Don't think that Texas looked the part of superior team in Tucson in any aspect that wasn't goaltending, but they had the ability to finish on the chances that, they created, and their voodoo in net was enough. They still lack that wow factor for me for a team that's having these results, which makes me wonder how good they actually are. If this is a good team just emerging, or if this is a okay-ish team that's getting hot, or if this is just a bad team that's getting really, really hot. I don't think it's the latter, but I'm not totally sold that it's not the middle one.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
But like, they have a lot of good pieces, but like I said, they lack that dynamic domination of a team. Like they played okay against Tucson, but I felt like that game was more Tucson shooting itself than it was Texas just steamrolling them. But you don't always need to be that way to win. Like Laval does it, but in a little more direct ways. But they aren't just crush you with sheer skill. They're a possession team that just keeps on coming at you. Like they're not flashy, but they get the job done. But I'm curious to see, because I'm not sure if this Texas team is for real yet.
Yeah, I mean, just because they're riding the PDO wave a little bit doesn't mean that, like you said, they gotta kind of prove themselves a little more over time, as opposed to just this very small sample size in which they're doing well, like you said, 5-1 over the past 6 games. But with that all said, the last of the deep dive series, it is time for our picks. Friday at 7 p.m. Central in Cedar Park, Texas. Saturday at 7 p.m. Central in Cedar Park, Texas. Eagles, Stars, Sean, who do you got?
Texas.
Both games?
Yeah, I'm taking Texas both games. Colorado looks a mess on special teams. Texas's special teams are performing really well. I'm hesitant to call them good because, like I said, I still am not sure if I believe that this is truly a very good or good team yet, but they're playing well, and their special teams are executing, and Colorado's just aren't. I'm especially with all of the guys up in the Avalanche taxi squad and roster. I struggle to believe that the Texas doesn't, roll here. I don't think that they, walk away with a pair of 7-1 wins or anything like that. But I think Texas somewhat handily takes this down.
I think Texas is going to take that first game. I'm going to, hope springs eternal for Colorado, maybe getting a little help this weekend. So maybe you get that email in the morning saying, hey, so-and-so is back on the team. I would imagine one or two of those names that we mentioned can at least get back on the team. And, Texas is going to take that first game, but I'm going to hold out hope that Colorado can eke one out on Saturday.
All right. Forever the optimist.
I'm always a glass half full kind of guy. Yeah, you know that enough talking with me.
Yep. All right. I'll get a good stretch in here.
Well, hey, what does the model say about Texas? Hold on. Before the speed round. Nice Quebec Nordiques jersey, by the way.
Yeah, when in Rome.
Oh, good point. Let me see it. Let's see the logo for those. Yes, one of the best retro logos ever. Makes my heart happy. Sorry, I had to show it off. So, Sean, I digress. Texas, what does the model say?
The model likes Texas a lot, and I think it's mostly because of who is on the Avs roster right now, as opposed to who's on the Eagles roster. So that's why you see what I think is a kind of inflated Texas at 69.06%, which is nice, but I don't.
Very nice.
I don't think that accurately represents, the Eagles as a franchise right now, but more their current state of their roster.
That is a fair assessment. All right, now you can stretch. All righty. It is time for that wonderful segment that we introduced last show. It is time for the speed round. So here we go. Weekend series, Friday, Laval at Toronto. Sunday, Toronto at Laval. Sean, who do you got?
Justin Bieber just wrote a song about your parent club, Laval to sweep.
And I'm going to pick Laval to sweep as well, because that's some bad juju you don't want on them. Friday, Hartford at Providence. Sean.
Hartford stole one the other day. I don't think that continues. I'm taking Providence, regardless of whether they start Swayman or Vladar. Both are really good.
And, of course, my pick at the beginning of the season, or close to it, 19-20 wins. Providence going to take that one. Syracuse at Utica on Friday. Sean, who do you have?
Syracuse continues to underwhelm, and Ben Grew continues to lose his verbal filter. I'm taking Utica.
Brutal. I'm going to say, Syracuse will steal this one. Okay, Saturday, Stockton and Manitoba. Sean.
Manitoba's looking all right these days. That depth has really helped them out that came down from the Jets, but Stockton continues to be the hottest team in Canada somehow, even though they don't belong in Canada. Stockton.
Stockton Heat of Calgary. That's who I'm picking. Wilkes-Barre Scranton versus Syracuse at Syracuse. Sean.
I'm going to stick to old tropes here. If Shane Starrett starts, give me Syracuse. If Max Lagasse starts, I will take the Baby Pens.
I'm going to say regardless. I'm going to say Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Okay, Binghamton at Lehigh Valley. Sean.
I will not believe that Bingo has solved its transition problems until it shows me in back-to-back games. Lehigh Valley, big.
Yep, Bingo struggles. Phantoms rule. Lehigh Valley. Rockford at Grand Rapids. Sean.
Maybe Colin Dealey can steal one here, but Grand Rapids is rolling right now. I'm taking Griffins.
Yep, I'm going to say Rockford just to be contrarian. Tucson at San Diego. Sean.
San Diego still looks like they're suffering from Ziegler's hangover, whereas Tucson sleepwalked through most of the Texas series. I think the Roadrunners wake up here first. Tucson, but ugly.
Okay. I'm going to say... they're San Diego's due for one. I'm going to say the Gulls take that one. All right, moving on to Sunday. We've got Lehigh Valley versus Hershey, or at Hershey, rather. Sean, who do you got?
Model is much higher on Hershey than I am. Lehigh Valley is getting healthy, and I think they're scary on offense unless Copley gets to start. Phantoms.
Yeah, Phantoms are trending in the right direction. I'm going to go Lehigh Valley as well. Henderson at San Diego to conclude the speed round. Sean, who do you have?
PDO train go. Whoa, whoa.
Henderson Silver Knights. Okay. Why not? PDO train, riding it with Sean. I bought a ticket. I'm hopping on. Henderson, let's take it. There you go. All right. And we are done with the speed round. That's very intense. That's 2 minutes and 45 seconds of, just a lot of shamonia. Don't ask. You know me. I'm out there. All right. Well, hey, that's it for the program. So, Sean, let's begin the outro.
Yeah. If you guys are enjoying the show, please make sure you subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, please rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening to it from, if that podcatcher allows it. Some of them don't. I don't run them. Don't ask me. If you're watching on YouTube, like the video and comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at the Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of that and more can be found on our link tree, which is scrolling down in the bottom here. It's also, for those on the audio version, linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. If you are listeners from Australia or Norway or Ireland, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, we can see those stats. So thank you very much for listening to the Calder Farmstead AHL podcast. My name is CC Hockley. You can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL and at my personal Twitter account at CC Hawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. Music, memes, mainly hockey, but hey, if it's interesting to me, it's not going to be bullshit for you. Check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at fullpresshockey.com. And of course, the Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can find our podcasts, other hockey podcasts, and other sports and sports entertainment podcasts at fullpresscoverage.com. Sean.
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SEANOBRIEN81. I can spell my name fast because I've been doing it my whole life. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien_81. Both of those are personal accounts. My Instagram following is getting better. I'm getting more frequent at it. Although I just got blocked by Instagram the other day for trying to post a video game recording because I used Immigrant Song from Led Zeppelin. Apparently that's frowned upon. I know. I'm going to turn. I was planning on turning such a great profit with all of my double-digit followers.
Yeah, anyway, right.
If you are interested in seeing where these random PDO stats and metrics we talk about are, they are on my Tableau page. You can get there by going to bit.ly/data-dump-and-chase. All lowercase, all one word. Last but not least, big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction, DYSFUNCTION. So we can make music for you too.
And that will do it for the Calder Farmstead episode number 19. Thanks for tuning in once again, everybody. And we'll catch you next time on the opposite side of the weekend. And my God, Sean, we're knocking on the door of episode number 20. Kind of crazy that this new venture of ours that we started at the beginning of the year, we're 2 months into it, and episode number 20 is right around the corner. So hang with us, and we'll see you after the weekend. But until then, keep your stick on the ice.